regular season is finished. We finished with a W.
That's
it
right.
was it went out with a bang for sure because there was a big lightning strike and that ended our season.
Yeah.
So let's just go ahead and start talking about that game. It wasn't a very long game.
No.
It was kind of one-sided, but we kind of knew that. So let's talk a little bit about the offense, the defense. I don't know if you had players of the game.
We did.
I had one moment, or we had one moment that we thought was pretty cool. The mayor, I believe, broke 1,000 yards on the
That's
season.
right. Yep.
And so I think we try to celebrate the things that we can figure out to celebrate, but that's kind of a big deal in high school is to get 1,000 yards rushing.
Yeah, it is. Mayor Morgan went over 1,000 yards, as you mentioned. He's also just, spoiler alert, our offensive player of the game. And obviously he gives credit to his offensive line, receivers blocking on the perimeter, and, quarterback Cash Williams, setting him up. Obviously, he could have broke it multiple games ago. We've kind of rusted him, where there's a couple games we gave him, he didn't have any carries because maybe for the opponent that we played, but just had an absolute, dominant year. And so his actual, most rushing yards have been against the stiffest competition,
Right.
Which is a little bit different than a lot of people. So these aren't padded stats, these are
Right.
very, very, very much earned 1,000 yards. And so, Mayor, very, very cool moment. I was able to do that. Kind of a weird game, as you said, to end the season. Offense, I think, had 15 total snaps, and defense had 18. And so that's not a whole lot. And just for reference, there's typically 160 snaps in a game. So that wasn't very much. And as you mentioned, the game cut short due to weather. But again, got in, got a big district win to close out. District play undefeated. Second time in school history, really, really cool. It's the first time since 2022 to do that. So great night, able to, cash in on that and, move on and get healthy moving towards playoffs.
All right, and so you said offensive player of the game was Mayor Morgan?
Yeah, it was Mayor,
okay.
absolutely.
That's the one I had, and just basically, everybody did fantastic, like we expected to, but just, I think the Mayor, just that 1,000 yards, and like you said, you probably have all the stats. His average yards per carry is pretty high, and it's not padded by the easier teams. It's just how it is.
Those are all tough yards, against top ranked opponents. So he's always performed his best. And you talk to Mayor, he doesn't care about stats. He doesn't care about getting 1,000 yards or anything like that, which I think makes people want to block for him so much harder. Because he's such a humble kid and just wants to win. So he doesn't care if we run it, throw it, whatever. He just wants to try to find a way to win. And so I don't think he was even aware that he was near 1,000 yards, but we obviously were, and we want to make sure that he's able to achieve that.
And I'd also like to point out that he didn't get 1,300 yards and lost 300 yards throughout the season. He probably maybe got 1,025 and lost 3 or 4 yards
he very
in the
rarely
entire
loses
season.
yards. I mean, he does such a great job. We've talked about that before on the show. Just highlight a couple guys. I think Cash Williams I brag on all the time too, a quarterback. Just as people will be the plays that he makes that are downfield are super exciting. But as a coach, a lot of the most exciting plays that he makes are an incomplete pass, avoiding a sack. Or getting us 2 yards in a play that maybe should have gotten us minus 14.
Right.
That's what both those guys do a tremendous job of just avoiding negative plays all the time, and that's what's been one of the huge keys to our offense. Being the most explosive offense that we've had since I've been at Choctaw.
All right, let's go ahead and move on into defense. And you might have a player of the game.
Yeah.
I had a tough time. There's lots of turnovers. There's some scores. People are flying around making plays all over the place. I want to know who your player of the game was.
We had two players a game. So player of game number one. Again, this makes it pretty easy for us because we have a production chart. So it's numbers tell us who they are. There's really takes a human element out of it. So the two biggest producers on the night were Cole Riley, who's been in multiple times, and then second was Israel Hammonds, sophomore. So those two were our players.
Cole and Izzy.
Yes.
Yeah.
They've been there multiple times, and they just continue to produce. So if you remember, Cole had an interception, multiple other plays he came up with. Izzy had several sacks and a forced fumble and things like that, and those carry more weight on the production charts. And multiple guys played really, really well. Those games are difficult sometimes to play in, and but you tell our kids you get a chance to go play, you play hard. you know, when you're out there, you go play hard. You cannot diminish your level of play based on opponent, good or bad. You know, and you got to make sure that obviously, you know, you do it respectfully, but you go play hard.
Okay. I'm not going to name the names of my players of the game because there's too many.
Yeah, a lot.
And what I thought the plays of the game or the players of the game on defense.
Rocco with a big interception too.
Well, that's big. I'm going the other direction, where I saw several players, even not even the starters, where they were picking up nights off the ground after a play.
Yeah, absolutely.
Clean hits, good jobs, basically having that leadership and that good sportsmanship, where I feel like they left the field with the clap of thunder, that they weren't insulted, they weren't put down, they went out there. I felt like we showed them respect, and so each little moment of interaction that our players had with them that had that positivity, I think that was the players of the game or the play of the game. And I can't name all the names, but I kept seeing people doing just little things like, you know, keeping them up. And again, we didn't have a bunch of personal fouls. There's times that they were just teed up, right? And so you could have just blown them away, but they clean tackled them, caused a bunch of turnovers, but they were clean hits, and I think that speaks to the maturity of the team.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we mentioned before, I mean, there's no sense in, you know, trying to humiliate or, you know, degrade someone else on, you know, on the path to beating them. You know, I mean, you need to go win the game. You know, it's always just a faceless opponent to us. You know, regardless of who it is, you have to go play your hardest. But with that said, you know, I'd like to echo that point that you just mentioned with our kids is like, you know, but you also have to have respect for those kids and what they do and the coaching staff, you know, playing a game that they know may not be a favorable outcome, but still find a way to go and, you know, and do it because they love the game and love playing, talking about Northwest Classen and go and do it. And so obviously our kids wanted to respect them and honor them. You know, but on you know, on the other, you know, side of the coin, like, you have to win the game,
right?
You are supposed to win the game, and so you have to go out and play your best as well. But again, you don't have to humiliate them, and I thought our kids did a great job of that.
Well, you're supposed to win the game, and you also have to get your starters off the bus, and you have to play your starters, because you can't just let them, just because we're going to win, you can't just let them hang out, because then they get rusty, and no, you got to play them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so everything went according to plan. And I think that was a blessing that we lost the fourth quarter, because I don't think anybody was getting any good out of the fourth quarter at that point.
Right.
So moving on, because now we're done with the season. District championship, second time in history. Undefeated district play, also second time in history. So that's great. But everybody's record resets.
Absolutely, 0-0, and you know, we're fully aware of that. So it's exciting. You know, you talk about, you know, playoffs are obviously super exciting. You know, practices feel different. You know, everything feels different. It's just a lot more, you know, like, you know, excitement in the air during playoff time. And, you know, all playoffs are is a giant tournament. You know, it's just a bracket. You know, it's like, go win your bracket. For us, fortunately, you know, we've earned a first round bye, you know, that we took advantage of, and, you know, are able to kind of move on to the opponent. But that's a week that you can really focus on, you know, technique and getting the weight room and sprinting and lifting and, you know, making sure we're getting bigger and stronger and faster and better, you know, along the way to prepare for the battles that you know are coming. And, you know, playoffs are fun because if they're designed right, you know, every single week should get a little bit more challenging, you know, as you continue to go.
So I'm going to post this bracket. You can't see it there. I'm going to post this bracket on the video.
Is it going to be behind us?
It's probably going to be in front of us so they can actually see it.
Down here?
Yeah. Well, that's probably be
here. Okay.
Probably be like here, and like then I'll make it bigger.
Okay.
And also the team we're going to play on Friday is going to be right here.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
And I guessed it, and so you don't know who it is. Not yet.
But you knew you were right.
It's right here. I know I'm right.
You know you're right. Okay.
The magic of editing.
Okay, that's right.
All right. But what we do know is we got a nice side of our bracket, because, of course, we got Choctaw and Sand Springs. We both have byes.
Mm-hmm.
Our potential opponent, although I showed you the real opponent, Sapulpa Eisenhower.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? We know Eisenhower. And I've watched some Sapulpa film. I'm sure you watched a lot more Sapulpa film. And so you have the challenge of getting ready for both this first week, and then the second week, well, you already know who's you're going to play. So that means for a lot of film study and a lot of figuring stuff out. Of course, we also got Piedmont and Ponca City. Sand Springs is going to play one of those.
Correct.
And I'll actually put which one they're playing right here. Okay?
There it is.
And so we don't have the ability to face Muskogee or Stillwater or Putnam North. There's some other schools that we don't know how we match up. We don't have the ability to face them until a state championship game if we make it. Because, again, it's win or go home.
Yeah,
and each one of these teams is capable in a variety of areas, and if you sleep on them, they'll get you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what's going on. So tell me a little bit about, I guess, how you prepare for this journey. How do you do it?
Yeah, I mean, the boring answer is, like we said, is you have to look inwardly, so like you go back and you look at all your tendencies, you look at what you've done at every formation, you look at what defenses you've ran, you look at what have you not done well, right? Because that's the same thing that your opponent's going to look at, and make sure that you shore up your own deficiencies, during these weeks. Because as you mentioned, during a bye week, it's great to have a bye week, but also you really don't know who your opponent's going to be, and so you can't specifically prepare for this opponent or that opponent. You really have to look inwardly. Of course, you're going to look, and try to get, ideas, right? But
right.
You don't want to be hyper specific because, again, that may not be who you're actually going to see. But what you can be hyper specific about is just, again, shoring up your own inadequacies during that time and making sure that you're taking care of yourself and being inwardly focused. And, and that's really what football is. I mean, obviously, we know, when you're playing, a maybe, super, great opponent versus maybe a lesser opponent. But the bottom line is, like, you have a level of play that you have to continue to strive for regardless of who that opponent is, because it really is you versus you, and we have that mentality all the time, with Choctaw. We talk about, who can beat Choctaw. It's just us. Like,
right.
No one can beat us when we're firing on all cylinders. And so trying to make sure we continue to get better and just play our style of ball and play gold standard football in every area and do that. So, yeah, it's, the boring answer is that you just have to continue to get better inwardly and focus on that at practice because, again, like, if you take care of that, the outcome will take care of itself.
Well, and unfortunately, the boring answer is usually the right answer because, again,
it's not, you can't get obsessed with your opponent, no matter who it is. You have to just continue to focus and execute and get better.
Okay. One thing we do know for sure is that we get to play November 22nd.
At home.
Here.
Yeah,
right
at
here
home,
at home. So we know that for a fact. We also know whoever wins that game gets to play on November 29th. That's Black Friday.
Yep.
But you got to win the game or you don't get invited. That's Black Friday. Location, I'm hearing rumors of Tahlequah, but I don't know if we know for a fact yet.
Yeah, we don't know. So it depends on the opponent. If it's a West Side opponent, then we'll be somewhere probably more local. If it's an East Side opponent, it is an East Side year. And so if we are fortunate enough to make it to the semifinals and practice on Thanksgiving and all those great things that go along with that, then it would most likely be an East Side location if there's an East Side school versus a West Side school,
okay.
Meaning us, we would be on the East Side this year.
And so if we get past that one, we do know that Saturday, December 7th at University of Central Oklahoma is where the championship game at 7 o'clock.
Yep.
It's not a Friday game. And we know that since it's an East Side year, that means that the West Side will wear white and be the visitor. Is that correct?
I believe you're correct. Yes.
Okay. I'm trying to get this information, and so I want all this information so you can follow along a little bit. Again, I'm not saying we're going anywhere because I need to see how we play that first night, and then I'm hoping that I can get excited and plan my road trip for the second night because,
absolutely.
Again, you can't assume anything in high school football because
there's no doubt. We just, again, we don't assume either. It's just win or go home, as you mentioned, and we have to be playing our best level of ball. And anyone at any time can beat you. All these other teams, as you mentioned, they're 0-0, and so are we. They're in the playoffs just like we are. And so you have to just really, really be on your game. And be able to do it for 3 straight games to be able to have an opportunity. And so, we for sure, make sure we take 1 week at a time and go 1-0. Because that's all that matters.
Okay. But in my field, I have to be ready, and so I have blacked out all those dates.
Yeah.
And I'm always hoping to work those dates because like that's the payoff is like, do you really want a day off as a football coach?
Right.
Yeah.
We want to keep going.
You want to keep going.
We want to go through December 7th at about 10 p.m. So.
And I've been doing this for about 10 years, and so like I'll get a day off, but I don't want it during playoffs.
Right.
I'll take my day off after,
Absolutely.
And so it's I get to make my own schedule basically, but I want to be there for the big games, and there's no games in the summer, and so I don't. You guys are working hard, but I'm off. So I got those blacked out. Of course, we're going to try to air whatever games we can. I guarantee you we can get permission for the first one. The semis, doubt. It's 50-50 if we could get permission for that. Depends where it's filmed, where it's played. And state championship, if we make it, we'll do probably just audio only. That's usually what happens. And so we'll be there all along the way supporting. And again, we won't have another coaches show until we'll probably have a wrap-up show at some point, but I'm hoping we have 2 more shows.
Me too.
I'm hoping we have a show before the state playoffs, state championship, and then one after the state championship.
Let's do it.
And that will hopefully be the most fun show I'll ever do. That's what I'm hoping for.
Let's do it.
But let's do it. All right, so we could talk, but I'd rather just go watch some football. And so until then, stay golden.